MBA Show, and today is a Q&A Weekends episode where we answer your question right here on the show. If you have a question you want to ask, just email us at support@businessrepublic.net. As always, I'm your host, your coach, your teacher, Omar Zenhom. I'm also the co-founder of the $100 MBA, a complete business training and community online. And today's question comes from Jim. And Jim asks, what are some great tools and templates for making blog photos easier to pump out? Good question, Jim. And what Jim is referring to is the feature image, the image that people see that correlates to that blog post. This is an image they would see at the top of the post or in the blog feed. It would also be the image that would show up on social media when they're sharing that post. So this image is quite important. It's the preview to the post. It's the hook. It's kind of the thing that's going to get people enticed to read the post, to check it out. So you want to make sure that it's quality, and you want to make sure that it is done right. But at the same time, Jim is asking how could he keep creating these blog post images quickly, so if he's publishing 3 or 4 blog posts a week, he can create them in no time. So I have some recommendations and some answers to your question here, Jim. Blogging is something I've been doing for quite a long time, and creating blog post images is something that I know a little bit about. I'm going to give you some do-it-yourself options, as well as the options when it comes to getting somebody else to do it, having it done for you. So let's get into it, guys. Let's get down to business. Today's episode of the $100 MBA Show is sponsored by Earth Class Mail. Get yourself a business address set up with Earth Class Mail and have all your mail that's sent to that address digitized and up on the cloud for you so you can scan all your mail from anywhere you are in the world. You can even hook it up with all your favorite software so you can pay invoices, you can pay bills. It's great. No more physical mail. I love this idea. But don't take my word for it. Try it out for yourself for a full month. Just go to earthclassmail.com/MBA month and use discount code MBA month. Again, that's earthclassmail.com/MBA month, discount code MBA month. All right, so what are some tools or templates you can use to make blog post photos easier to pump out? All right, so I'm going to give you my recommendation. First of all, you want to have a system, and you do want to make it quick, but you don't want to sacrifice quality. There's nothing worse than having a system in place that speeds things up and lowers the quality of your work. Don't disappoint your readers, your visitors, and the image for your blog post has a lot of power, like I mentioned before, has a lot of influence. So I'm going to tell you what I did and what I did when I started out and what system I had in place. Then I'm going to give you some other options that I didn't try that I hear people like to use. Then I'm going to give you what we do now and something that you may want to think about when it comes to getting somebody who's much better at it than you are to do it for you. All right, so for years and up to very recently, up to the last year or so, I was creating every single image for the blog posts. And my system was quite simple. First of all, I was a self-taught Photoshop user. I basically got Photoshop, and I read some tutorials and watched some tutorials on lynda.com, and I basically became a pretty good amateur. I knew my way around enough to have a system in place to create these blog post images. So first of all, I had a template. I saved a template for just the dimensions for my blog post image. And obviously these are wide images for blog posts, so I had my own dimensions. And I set it as my default template on Photoshop. Now, if Photoshop is intimidating for you, or you don't want to buy Photoshop, it's okay. There are other tools you can use that are absolutely free or low cost. I just prefer Photoshop because this is what I know and this is what I learned. But you can use a software called GIMP, G-I-M-P. And GIMP is available on PC or Mac, and it's basically Photoshop minus a few bells and whistles, but you could do everything you need to create these images with GIMP. And there's tons of tutorials on YouTube on GIMP. It's super easy to learn. The other option is something called Canva. And Canva is a web app that allows you to create simple graphic design. They give you all the templates, they give you all the graphics, they give you all the icons. So you're just at one place where you could create these things. You could try it out for free, but they also have an upgrade where you can create better looking images or you can use better looking icons if you pay for it. But Canva is kind of a low tech option that will produce some pretty good results. Now, if you're using Photoshop or GIMP, you're naturally going to have more flexibility and you'll have more originality when it comes to your images. Because again, you're not using some template or standard images that Canva has. Now, regardless of what you're using, Photoshop, GIMP, or Canva, you need a system in place. So you need to start out with a template, and the template could just be simply the size of the photo that you want to create for your blog post. It depends on the way your blog is designed, but just create the size that you need. Now you got to think about the elements you want on your actual photo, your image. And you want to keep it consistent, but different at the same time. So here's an example. You may want to add 3 components to every image. 1, an actual photo. So say, for example, your blog post is about dealing with email. So you'll have a stock photo that you can download somewhere for free. There's plenty of free stock photos on the internet. And we actually have a special episode on that, where to find great stock images for free. And we'll put it into today's show notes. And you can check out that link over at 100mba.net/MBA546. That's today's show notes. So you'll start with an image. You may want to add some icons, whether that's arrows or certain images or a chart. And you can get icons from Noun Project. And that's a great place to find some really cool icons. And then the third element is fonts. You want to add some fonts. And you could just use the standard fonts that are on your computer or in the actual software. Now, my opinion is don't use too many different fonts for every image, meaning that stick with 3 or 4 fonts. I would say 3 fonts, and don't change it around. So people are used to your brand and your fonts. You may want to just stick to 1 font. That's the font you use for any text on your images. So you may want to do images plus fonts or images plus fonts plus icons. It's up to you. So basically what you do is every time you create a blog post image, I would go to my resources. So I'd go to my royalty-free image resources, and that's all the sites that we mentioned in that episode I told you about that's in today's show notes. Then I would go to my icons resources, and those would be on Noun Project. Then I would go to my fonts and just say, what am I going to say? What's the headline of this blog post? How am I going to entice them with the headline? And that's all sales copy and a different story. But that was my system. And basically what I did is I created all the images for the next 2 weeks in one sitting. Even if you don't have the full blog post written out, you know the titles or the topics of your blog posts, and I would get 2 weeks ahead. I would sit down for a few hours and just do them at one shot. And this is called batching, and I do this with a podcast as well. I record several episodes at one sitting. So you want to do the same thing with your blog post images. Now, if you need a little guidance with this procedure of creating a really good-looking blog post image, there's a really good blog post by Nathan Barry. Nathan Barry is a friend of ours, and he's a very successful entrepreneur. He's created some really great businesses from the ground up. And we'll put that blog post link in today's show notes again. But the blog post is titled 7 Techniques to Design Killer Graphics for Your Blog Posts. And he goes into all the prerequisites. He gives you some really good resources to find some free images. He talks about how to add color and detail to your images. And he walks you through how to do this in Photoshop. Again, you could do this in GIMP and pretty much in Canva as well. Talks about how to get some icons and how to use icons. Then he talks about making interesting text. It's a really short blog post, but it's really helpful, and I wanted to share it with you because it helped me when I was creating this process. Now, there's another completely different option when it comes to creating your blog post images, and that's hiring somebody to do it for you. Now, if you're just getting started, if you're bootstrapping your business and you just can't afford to hire somebody, that's okay. You don't have to. You could do it yourself. But it may be an idea to just try somebody out on a freelance basis that's really good with graphics. Even if it's just for a few images, 3 blog post images, they can pump them out. Maybe you could agree to a certain fee, like $50. Just see how much it would cost. $50 is not too much to try them out. At least you'll get an idea of how they would create a great looking image, and you could use it as sort of like a template. And again, you could check out all the different places you can find freelancers that we mentioned in other episodes, but freelancer.com is one, Odesk. You can even find people overseas at onlinejobs.ph. The point here is that you could just hire somebody temporarily, give them a shot to see what they could do. And then later on, you can call upon them when you can afford it. But remember, the person has got to have taste. And that's the whole point of these images. It's not a technical exercise. It's an artistic one. It's got to make sense with the blog post. It's got to be enticing. It's got to be interesting. And it's got to be fun. We were lucky enough to have a content manager, Cindy, who really did a great job and had experience in Photoshop, so it was part of her skill set. So consider that as an option. Guys, I got more on today's topic. Before that, I got to give love to today's sponsor, Earth Class Mail. Save yourself the headaches of opening and sorting your mail. With Earth Class Mail, they hook you up with a great business address. Then all the mail that gets sent there gets scanned and digitized in your Earth Class Mail account. It's up in the cloud so you can access it anywhere you are in the world. You can hook it up with all your accounting software so you can pay bills and invoices with ease. Best of all, you don't have to deal with mail anymore. You could just check it out online. To me, this seems like an incredible idea. Why didn't this exist 10 years ago? Give Earth Class Mail a try for free with a free month. Just go to earthclassmail.com/MBA month and use coupon code MBA month. All right, guys, to wrap up today's Q&A Weekends episode, my best advice when it comes to these images is to have a system in place, even document the system, have it step by step in a Word doc, and then go to that system once a week and just batch up your images at one shot. Look at all the blog post titles you have on your publishing schedule and just sit there and get creative. Have fun. Use the tools we mentioned today and use the tutorial or the blog post that Nathan Barry has written out for you. And when your business grows, you could pass on this procedure that you created to somebody that you hire. Somebody that has great taste and is great with graphics. All right, guys, I hope that helps, and I hope to see you in tomorrow's episode, another great Q&A weekend episode. Tomorrow's question is very interesting from Abraham. Abraham says, I can't find a good .com for my business. Is a .co, .net, or .biz all right? I get into that in tomorrow's lesson. I can't wait for that. But before then, I want to leave you with this. Sometimes in our rush to be efficient and to pump out as much content as possible, we forget that there's certain things that really, really are critical. And one of those things are the blog post images. It's the first thing people see on social media. It's the first thing people see when they scan through your blog to make a decision if they want to read that post or not. You could have a really, really well-written post, but they'll never click it because they're just not enticed enough. The image is flat, or the copy on the image doesn't really appeal to them. So take the time to make sure it's quality before you worry about quantity. All right, guys, I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Until then, take care.